Hello out there. My name is Laolu Akonde and you are on to Inside Sources. But first, here is my take for today. Now, we had planned to have your take, but then we had the transition of the great towering figure, Chief Edwin Kiagbodo Clark. So first, let us pay tribute to the memory of this iconic elder statesman who just passed away at the whole ripe age of 97. He was our guest here on Inside Sources more than once, including as recent as December last year. At his 2 appearances on the show, we saw him for who he was, a passionate and tireless fighter for right, who consistently stood at the vanguard in the clamor for the Nigeria of our dreams. You can't deny Pa Clark's forthrightness, his fair-mindedness, his dogged advocacy for social justice and equity in this country. He was the redoubtable voice for and from Niger Delta, but he embraced the idea of one Nigeria and arduously clamored for its restructuring to ensure a real sense of belonging by all the diverse ethnic groups in the country. His voice was always strident on the major issues of the day, and he was no one to keep silent in the face of oppression and or perceptions of domination, nor could he be intimidated by anyone. I love that. He commanded respect, and as an interview subject, I found his capacity to recall facts accurately at his old age quite inspiring. He would quote the Nigerian Constitution with so much ease, and he never mixed the sections with the subsections. He always got the numbers right. Such was his acumen. A lawyer and former federal cabinet member, his involvement in the public affairs both in and outside government spanned well over 6 decades. From the Midwest, where he was a commissioner in charge of a number of ministries, all the way to when he became a federal cabinet member under General Gowon, and even afterwards. And then much later, he provided the much-needed political father figure to Nigeria's first president from the Niger Delta, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan. Pa Clark shared his view very readily, and he sided with common Nigerians, and he was an ardent follower of our program, Inside Sources, for which we are thankful. Here was what he said at his last appearance in December.
You know,
I watched it myself.
Okay.
Yes, it
All
was
right.
very nice.
Thank you, sir.
Never mind questions you asked me. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot from it again.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So if we just take a look at this year, the year is ending in a couple of weeks. How do you assess what has happened in the country? How do you assess the government in this year, 2024?
Yes.
You know, where do you think things are? If you can start like that, sir.
Thank you very much. I think Nigerians have to be more realistic. They have to be practical. They have to change their attitude. The ordinary Nigerians included, because the politicians in Nigeria are the greatest enemies. Some of them are the greatest enemies of their own country, called Nigeria.
May his soul rest in peace, and may his memory remain blessed. And now let's take a few of the feedback from our viewers. The first is on a segment that also paid tribute to late Pa Adebanjo, another iconic elder statesman and titan. The first comment is from Morrison Moore. He said, Pa Adebanjo is a noble man, a man of conviction, a hero indeed. I agree. Now we move to the edition that featured the JAMB registrar, Professor Oloyede. The first comment is from Shola Dawodu. Shola Dawodu says, brilliant, very insightful, got me arrested for the entire duration of the interview. More wisdom to the prof. And now we have from Mr. Oluwaseyi Daso. Insightful conversation. The university system needs urgent support. Moving along, we have from Ibrahimo Olashupo. Very objective and intelligent professor. You need to be sufficiently angry with the status quo to make the desired change. He was quoting what the prof said. This is not emotional, but a serious talk. Now we move to the edition that featured Barrister Ismail Ahmed, a former APC BOT member. The first comment comes from Niyi Adeto, very intelligent man. And then we move on to George Onabulele. It is so shameful that with all the talents in the corridors of power at all levels of government, we are where we are today. I think it has to do more with the short-sightedness, tribalism, and nepotism of these individuals. They have bled the country dry. How can you have a consensus with leaders like Buhari or Tinubu who have insisted on their tribesmen? Well, that's your view, and you are entitled to it. And also we have from Remi Kayode, Ishmael has always been apt and extremely intelligent at that. Now we move on to the edition that featured Barrister Adam Oloriaje, Dr. Okoro, and Dr. Folaujo. That was the one that had the discussion on Sharia in Southwest. The first comment is coming from Samwise Oda. We are not in an Islamic state. Why should we be promoting a religious law over common laws? When we religiously stop this thing that they can dump on us, their religious law, especially Islam. We are in a secular state, and we have so many developmental issues in this country. Why are we even talking about Sharia? Is this not shameful? Religion on top of so much corruption. Certainly it is not shameful. This is who we are, and we have to talk about it. And finally, there's a comment on the edition that featured Mr. Stephen Angulu of The Punch when we had a discussion on the president's foreign trip. This is from Lakuli on X, formerly Twitter. It says, thanks to Channels TV and Mr. Akonde for this show, Inside Sources. The unique blend of journalism and public service experience of the host is very illuminating. I really enjoyed your last Sunday, February 16 edition, especially the segment on the president's 37 foreign trips compared to 23 fake meetings in the same time period. We need the president more at home. And Mr. Akonde, thanks for the free seminar you are offering in Abuja, but the slots for the free slots are being filled before we realize it. Consider your viewers too. All right, it's still next week. We will do something about it. Just stay in touch. And there you have it, Inside Sources. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today we are opening the show with a discussion on the revelation that a U.S. congressman, Mr. Scott Perry from Pennsylvania, made regarding the fact that USAID funding was actually getting into the hands of a number of terrorist organizations across the world, including Boko Haram in Nigeria. To discuss this with me, I have a very prominent Nigerian who was the president of the Christian Association of Nigeria and also the former president of the Nigerian Baptist Convention. I'd like to welcome back to Inside Sources, Reverend Shupo Ayokunle. Your Eminence, you are welcome back to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much, the moderator, Dr. Akande.
Thank you, sir. So I'm sure that you have had the viral video of U.S. Congressman Scott Perry, a Republican from Pennsylvania, who has alleged that based on what he knows as a U.S. congressman, a lot of the funding from the USAID actually went into the hands of Boko Haram terrorists. I'm sure that you will recollect very well the struggle that a lot of Nigerians, Nigerian leaders, Nigerian government, Christian leaders such as yourself had when the issue of Boko Haram was at its peak. So I wanted to ask you, what is your initial reaction to this disclosure that was made on the floor of the U.S. Congress by Scott Perry? Your Eminence.
Thank you, moderator, for this opportunity. And good evening or good day, good morning to Nigerians. Whatever is the day where you are listening to me, that's why I said good morning, good evening, good morning, whatever. there is a Yoruba that says, if gospel starts the journey for the past 20 years, when truth begins its own today, that same day will catch up with gospel. This is what we are witnessing today. You will recollect that when we raised the alarm that external forces were involved in the equipping of the terrorist organizations in Nigeria, some people turned us to the enemies and were calling us different kinds of names. We even reported that people said that helicopters were dropping ammunition in some states in the north. And the people raised alarm. Our people at the region raised alarm to the national office. And we cried out. Well, we were like fools, raising unnecessary alarm. And because of the religious connection of Boko Haram, religion was also playing its part, as if we were just playing religious card, which was not so. The cry that we also cried was that the Boko Haram to be labeled, designated as a terrorist organization because of the level of destruction of properties and human beings that they were causing in the nation by that time. The retrogression they were bringing into the nation. We also believed that they were a terrorist organization being internationally sponsored because of the level of their organization. Even almost beating the regular security forces to it. Bombing here and there, you recollect the bombing of the United Nations office in Abuja. And it was as if our security agencies were not trained to match with them. We were crying about that time for more intelligence gathering, that we can nip them in the bud if there is a robust intelligence gathering. And when nobody was listening to us here, I had to secure an appointment with the Chris Smith, one of the congressmen in America,
Yes.
On human rights and freedom of religion, to state our case, because we had nobody representing us, voicing, making our voice to be heard outside the country, except the newspapers in Nigeria. So I traveled, I met with this congressman, and I told them the situation we are facing, that they started by first of all killing Christians, later they graduated to killing anybody that came their way. And that we cannot survive like this. Our government appear not to be prepared for them. First of all, took them for granted in their grand plan to go and plant the Quran at the Atlantic Ocean from the north. They took them for granted. They gave them room to operate. And we were suspecting what is happening, especially when we alleged and we cried out that our people in the regions cried out that they saw helicopters, I think especially in Niger State, dropping ammunition in the bush. That nobody investigated, nobody took us seriously. And now, see how it's coming out. USAID is now being alleged to be behind the sponsorship of Boko Haram in Nigeria. So they have been having millions of dollars to operate with. And they were, because of the international backing, the ammunitions were getting to them very easily. But my consternation is this. All the security agencies that the customs, the immigration, how can they be easily beaten without apprehending all this monumental danger coming upon our nation? Monumental danger. The ammunitions which even our military don't have, which our police don't have, these people have them.
They have it.
And some of the people were also crying out that they couldn't pay these people at the battlefront because of the type of weapon they were holding. And it was as if their threat, the threat of Boko Haram, ISWAP, and etc., was not a sufficient threat enough for the authorities to be more drastic about getting them. Well, we cannot say that they weren't doing anything, but they weren't doing enough.
No.
I will also blame the international community, especially the United States Congress. Since they knew this truth long time ago, why are they coming up now? Is it not almost too late? Why did they allow this type of thing to be done to Nigeria? We were already suspecting for long, because in those days, you know, when I think President Jonathan by that time was pleading with the United States of America to let us buy ammunition from them, supply us ammunition. They refused to do.
Yeah.
They said they will. I think that was during the time of President Obama, claiming that our military will not be very cautious enough in the use of the ammunition, that they will use them to kill civilians. Whereas it was not civilians they were killing, they were to kill. They knew the people they were facing in battle. And it was not a conventional war, where you know your opponent really. But with their training, they can monitor movements and ambush these people, get them where they are. Even if you want to accuse them that they will not use the ammunition very well, have you tested that before? Have you tested that before?
Exactly.
And if they will not, why can't you bring your own personnel to train them?
Exactly.
On how to
yeah. So Your Eminence, just so we dimension it, I wanted to permit me to interject there, because there are those who even say that, oh, okay, look, maybe what Scott Perry was saying, maybe we shouldn't believe it. And I wanted to put in this perspective, and then you respond. Now, the reason why, some of us cannot ignore what Scott Perry said, just like you've also said, is that he's a congressman, he's a U.S. congressman. But, I also have a personal experience. You recollect, Your Eminence, that Christian leaders at a point wanted to have Boko Haram to be designated as a foreign terrorist organization, particularly around 2012. And we formed a Christian association in the United States where we brought together all the Christian churches so that we can lobby the U.S. government and the U.S. Congress. I have the personal experience, Your Eminence, that the U.S. government, especially when Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State, they refused to grant the request to designate Boko Haram as a foreign terrorist organization until John Kerry came. And then it was apparent to us that the reason they did that, and this is the point, Your Eminence, the reason they didn't want to designate Boko Haram as FTI is because the moment they do that, they must not trace American government money going to them. So this is why some of us cannot ignore what Congressman Scott Perry has said. But what I want you to address next, Your Eminence, if you will, is that, so the U.S. Embassy, they have made a post to say that, look, they are with Nigeria on the question of fighting Boko Haram. That is a recent post made a couple of days ago. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think the U.S. government should do now that this is out? And what do you think the Nigerian government should do now that this information is out? Your Eminence.
Let me first of all say that we thank them for saying that. But it's still the time they should come out to say that. They should have come out to say that and show that in practice before now. And I also see that statement as an admission that they have not been with us either too. I will not take God Perry for granted because he didn't talk about Nigeria alone.
Yes.
He talked about the same organization, USAID, being used in the same way in Pakistan,
yes,
in Afghanistan, and other places. So, I mean, can he be very irrational and just be talking with every side of the mouth without facts? Before he can address the Congress and come out open, the facts and the figures must be there in his hands. You can't take such a caliber of individual for granted unless I suspect you to be an enemy of this nation. If we can still not take it for granted now, I mean, I'm asking the question, for what reason will the congressman implicate an organization of its own country? For what reason? USAID has not just begun, it has been for long.
Yes.
It has never been accused of this. But if it's being accused of this now, it means that they have changed in their involvement in the affairs of the developing ministry. And there are people have given so many reasons for this. Nigeria is a powerhouse in Africa. Nigeria is the most populous black nation in the world. Nigerians are very highly educated. Nigeria, even up to today, is the largest economy in Africa. Despite all the audits we are passing. Now just leave us alone if all this or this were in there. Where do you think Nigeria will have been? I see this. The Yoruba people say, "Ìran alákàrà ìfẹ́kẹ́lómi òde." That is.
Can you translate that, sir?
That is the professionals in a baking cake.
Yes.
They don't always want another cake baker around them.
Yeah.
America is developed and may be looking at Nigeria as a potential threat, world power, with which they were going to compete. And they may be responsible for trying to use internal insecurity to bring down the progress of Nigeria. That's my thinking. I'm entitled to my opinion, but you can connect issues. Why use a terrorist organization in Nigeria to slow down the progress of economic development in our nation? Since that time, companies are closed down in the north. Completely, many companies. Farmers couldn't access their farms. There's food insecurity now in Nigeria. It has not just started. Movement of goods and services are hampered. For most of the people in government, can they say that they will confidently travel from Guzo down to Abuja with their vehicles? Even no matter the number of patrol people that follow them, can they say they will do that without seeing hell on the way? And this is why the aviation industry is booming now in Nigeria. and they can charge anything because nobody wants to endanger his or her life.
On the road.
The terrorists are everywhere. So where can development take place in such a place? I think that the congressman who said it, we would thank him, though he came late, for summoning courage at last to speak this out. And I don't think that he is unpatriotic. It will not be unpatriotic to his nation to implicate his nation in the affairs of not just Nigeria, another country. So it is only, I don't think that any rational being will just take this man with levity and say it doesn't matter. He doesn't know what he's doing. We have seen this before. We cried out. People misinterpreted it. Do we have any other country, for God's sake?
Yeah.
Are we not too old to say that we are going to leave the country now?
Exactly. Your Eminence, just because of our time, I want you to go to the point. What do you think? Because the U.S. government has said that, we support Nigeria's fight against Boko Haram. There have been some statements in the Nigerian National Assembly that this should be investigated. What do you think the American government should do, and what do you think the Nigerian government should do now that this is out there?
Both governments should do something. Number one, Nigerian government to investigate how a foreign organization is distributing money and weapons to a terrorist group in Nigeria, and nobody reported to government that. They should investigate that because it means that their roof is leaking. If your roof is leaking and you take it for granted, the entire house might be filled with flood water and everybody will be swept away. I've been asking the question. No matter how porous our borders may be, don't we have immigration? Don't we have the custom? Why are these people succeeding like this? At a time, one of our presidents also said that the violent people, they are violent as men, brandishing weapons. They weren't the ones in Nigeria. They were the ones that came from outside, especially the freedom fighters or whatever they are, that came from Libya. Is that the way all nations look at anybody that wants to enter the country, just to enter it?
Territory.
What type of statement, laissez-faire statement is that one? It bothers me if at the end of affairs, the people that are supposed to take responsibility will be exposing themselves like that, as if it doesn't matter. Who do we look up to for protection? And as you know, our military, they are capable. Our security agencies, they are capable. Yeah. But when there is no sincerity, even amidst them also, I suspect that insincere people are there. Because there is no way by which these terrorists will be receiving these things, that those who are fighting them will not know at all. Why has nobody reported this before this congressman? However, it's not too late.
Yeah.
This war must be brought to an end. And every source of funding beyond that of USAID must be investigated and blocked. Henceforth, enough is enough.
Exactly. Thank you so much for your contribution and the insight of your contribution. And thank you for being a voice out there that is saying these things the way they should be said. And thank you for coming to Inside Sources, Reverend Ayokule. Thank you so much.
Thank you, moderator. God bless you. Thank you for what you are doing. God bless Nigeria and make it great again in Jesus' name.
Amen. God bless Nigeria. Thank you so much. So Inside Sources will be right back with a conversation with a leading Nigerian scholar who is the president of an association of Nigerian university lecturers. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Now, let's have our conversation on the future of the country. And I also have a guest that will enable us to also look at that in the area of education, especially university education. I'd like to welcome two inside sources, the National President of the Congress of University Academics, Associate Professor Niyi Sumonu. Professor Sumonu is a professor of atmospheric physics. I'd like to welcome Prof. to inside sources.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay.
And I want to also say hello to viewers at home of this program that looks at how the country, the trajectory of the country, and profile solutions on how we can get our bearings and actually move in the right direction.
Excellent.
Thank you for having me again.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming. So it's a theme of the future of the country. So I would like to start by asking you to look at where the country is today. You are a professor, associate professor of the Obafemi Awolowo University. How do you think we are doing? Do you think Nigeria is going in the direction of greatness that all of us believe is the destiny of our country?
Yeah, once again, thank you very much for having me. Yeah, in terms of various metrics, to the layman on the street, the metric of purchasing power, where we are today, is quite different from where we were before in terms of affordability, in terms of people being able to eat 3 meals a day, and all other economic metrics. As we have today,
right,
most Nigerians are finding it very difficult to eat, especially government workers, salary earners. The salaries have virtually remained stagnant for a while, and we have inflation hovering around 30-35%. And this came as a result of two policy statements on the inauguration day, 29th May 2023, the policy of floating of Naira and the policy of subsidy removal. But we want to believe that the managers of the country mean well, and we hope that as we move on and these policies mature,
right,
that we'll begin to see the turnaround for Nigerians. One instance is just about a couple of days back, maybe yesterday to be precise,
right,
there was a new benchmark for inflationary metrics.
Yeah, the rebasing of the...
So let us hope that as these policies and other policies that should support this mature, the Nigerians will find it easier to live their life and move in the direction of greatness. I must also say, before I conclude this thought, that Nigeria has remained a country with potentials, but we haven't lived the potential since 1960 of the independence of the country, and it's attributable to a number of things. Policy somersault, one government comes, another replaces it and change the policies for whatever reasons. But I must say at this point that our policies must be data-driven. It mustn't be about we don't like the face of the government that has gone, or we just want to make a statement that we are in power at this moment. It should be about the data for the benefit of the Nigerian masses.
Okay, excellent. I mean, excellent opening points, Dr. Sumonu. So now, I wanted to take it, forward from how you opened, talking about the difficulties that people face, living conditions. So I wanted to ask you, how is it nowadays being a university lecturer in Nigeria? Can you just paint for us, a picture of life is for the average Nigerian university lecturer? You are the national president of an association of, university teachers. How is it? How is life as a professor?
I would like to look at it from more than one perspective, at least two for this interrogation. The first one is on the welfare of an average academic, And that of an average academic is not different from an average salary earner in the country. But I'm being particular about academics. The last time we had salary restructure significantly was in 2009. That said, I must also admit that about 2 years ago, there was this wage award of 25%, 35%.
Okay.
But that said, the living conditions of academic, the purchasing power of academic. Let's take the issue of the price of premium motor spirits per liter, for example. An average academic that consumes to convey himself to work and back, like an average of 30 liters in a month, when it was around 1,150 naira per liter, 185 naira per liter, that will give us about in the neighborhood of 15,000, 20,000 naira.
Yeah, when it was 185 per liter, you mean?
In a month. But let's cascade to what we have today. That will be around 50,000, 60,000 naira per month on the same salary. Not to talk of the school fees, not to talk of the feeding and all sorts. And I must use this opportunity granted us to say that the job of an academic is more of a thinker than somebody that should bother himself or herself with how to feed, how to take care of his family. And if an average academic is distracted, the quality of the product that will come out of that thought will be questionable. That is on one side, which is the welfare.
Okay.
On the other side is the facilities with which academics should work. Research facilities, research equipment, they are not there as they used to be. Some time ago, I was conditioned to look at when did the rain start beating us in terms of funding for Nigerian university. And I discovered that up and until 1976, Nigerian universities, as small as they were then, usually return unspent fund, research fund, back to the coffers of the federal government. Then, from 1976 downward, up to this point, then we've started having the problem of insufficient funding. It could be due to more universities being created, more Nigerians legitimately aspiring to have university degrees, and more academic staff or staff in the university, and also legitimately that will have to teach the teeming citizens of Nigeria aspiring to have university degrees. And since then, our funding has been dwindling and of very little impact into the system. And as such, academics no longer have, as they used to have, research facilities that will make us rank at par with other colleagues in other parts of the world. And when we lack that, Nigeria will suffer to grow. When the thinkers do not have the right facilities to work, the country will suffer as a result of the low output, low quality of the thought processes that cannot be translated into reality as a result of paucity of research facilities. So on these two counts, the welfare, it's inadequate at the moment as we speak, is inadequate. Secondly, the research facilities are inadequate. These two issues come together to affect the performance, the rating of our universities among the Committee of Universities globally.
Okay, good. Excellent point. So will you say that the country is already suffering the effects of these two debilitating factors that you have initiated?
It's actually glaring to everyone that the country is not tapping and tasking into the quality of the minds it has in the ivory towers because of these twin factors I just enumerated. And until the needful is done, as we have currently, the government don't have that much belief in the minds, in the academic minds of the country. That is why the government officers would like to have retreats most times. They do that outside the shores of this country. And we really, if for want of appropriate word, we really boast about going to other climes, universities and other places to say that we have this 2-week program there, we have that 3 weeks program there. Meanwhile, I say this time and time again, that we can only think globally. The resultant effect of our thinking globally will still have to be adapted to our local situation.
True.
We can only act locally. No matter what we get from outside, there are some other factors that will make us adapt to those situations here. And it's only Nigerian academics who are here, who are thinking about this place, who have facilities to bring into reality the problems of this place, can then provide appropriate solutions that will be commensurate, that will fit into our problems.
Interesting. So what do you think, Prof? And I know that you're an associate prof, so that we are very accurate about it. What do you think? What do you think is the major Nigerian problem? I agree with you that academics are meant to be thinkers, and I know that you are more of a scientist. But I'm sure that you must have your own perspective. If you want to think, if academics are supposed to be thinkers to solve problems, critical thinkers, in your own view, what do you think is Nigeria's toughest challenge?
I would rather want to see the question as a mix. There is no one problem that is really bigger than the other, because there is a connection between one issue to the other.
I see.
Now, there's no aspect of Nigerian life that you can think, when we pump resources into this, then this alone, it can then affect others positively, and you have the ripple effect. I don't want to see it that way, but I want to see it as a combination of a number of things.
Okay.
First is that if we're looking at the education, let's look at the whole gamut of education. In recent time, the government is trying to tinker about the 6334 education system.
Okay.
And coming to about, from there, it's come to 934. From there, they are thinking about having it at 1234. That is, we have continuous education for 12 years. Then if you choose to then go to the university, then you just go, or you drop off there and do some other things. Of course, it has to come with skills.
Right.
Then we look at the university side, or the tertiary education side generally. So if you're looking at education, so to say, I would say that our problem first will be about proper funding across the spectrum of education sector. Because if you say, let's focus about the funding, and please don't forget, I spoke about a combination. They are actually intertwined, even in the education sector alone.
Right.
If we look at that in isolation. Now, if you then say that you focus on the university education, or let's even generalize tertiary education, if the product from the elementary school up to the university, up to the secondary school is not sound, then what kind of motivation, which is the job of teachers in higher institution, what kind of motivation are you going to give to that mind that is really dry, the mind that has nothing in it?
Right.
So if we look at education, we look at health, we look at so many funding, that's a common denominator across. This funding, it's not just about throwing money at something. When you allocate the fund to it, do we see through that the funds are appropriately and justifiably used for those things meant for?
Okay.
So this is part of it. Number two is that, and I've alluded to that at the opening of this discourse, that one of the problems that we have is policy somersaults. frequent changing of policies. We try, as a union, we try to interrogate the 6334 system. We looked at where we were before the introduction of 6334 system,
Right.
where we were before was bequeathed to us by the British, and which is 6523.
Okay.
And that we tried to change in 1982, 1983. And the facilities we need to effectively implement 6334, I make bold to say, but humbly so, that we're not there. And if they are not there, we won't get the result, the desired result. As we speak today, the British still operate 6523. So it's not just about throwing money at issues. It's about seeing through the fund. What are the things meant for? Did we follow them through? So over years later, and I'm speaking against policy summit, over years, we can then evaluate, maybe 5 years, 10 years, and this cut across all facets of our lives.
Yeah.
We can then evaluate, look at the data, what are the feedbacks that we are getting. Along the line, what are the things that we then need to tweak, which will be data centered. So this is the kind of, as from our perspective, this is what we see as the major challenges Nigeria as a people, Nigeria as a government is having. We've also tried, one example that comes to mind, was also tried, we started with democracy, so to say, then just very short time, impatience, we moved into military. Then again, we came back around 1979 to democracy. It was short-lived up until 1999. Of course, this is what we have as the longest one.
Right.
So, last but not the least is patriotism and the love of the country. It's also a challenge as a person. For us, as an individual, a challenge in the sense that different persons, different Nigerians serve in different capacities.
Right.
And we should see that the common project to us is Nigeria. The fact that one person is serving in one capacity different from the other doesn't make the person better or inferior to the other person.
Right. Right.
If our common focus is Nigeria as a project, and we should do that patriotically and with utmost sincerity.
And I wanted to also talk about CONUA, the Congress of University Academics. Can you tell us about that?
Well, the Congress of University Academics came into being precisely in February 2018. There was nothing like Congress of University Academics, CONUA, before 2018. Of course, there were issues. What we had before 2018 was ASU, which is the Academic Staff Union of Universities, to which all academics in the universities in Nigeria belonged, or virtually all academics belonged, because we have very few just choose to remain unassociated with any union,
Right.
as it were. So, but we had issues which started in 2013 within, CONUA started, by the way, in the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Nigeria.
Okay.
So in 2013, there were issues about, and I will briefly touch on it, and I hope we'll have another opportunity to expand this discourse. There were issues about election, and there was this complaint about one office or two thereabout when the election was completed. And instead of disqualifying the officers or those who vied for those two offices, the National Executive Council of ASU then, in their wisdom, did a wholesome cancellation of that election. But because it's a union we all belong to, and we trusted the leadership, we're still there. And then there was this election of another election in 2016, unknown to us probably, and the benefit of hindsight now, it was just about a calculation towards a vice chancellorship selection in 2016 in OAU. And I say this because that executive sold out to a particular candidate among other candidates vying for the position of the vice chancellor
In OAU.
in OAU. And that divided the membership of the union. But that is actually not the issue for us. For us as a people, our issue is about that union that we belong to, the love we had for it. And there were other violations of constitutional violations to which we reported to the national executive then. But our report to them was like, who are you? On what ground are you raising all this? You are not an executive and what have you. But to cut the long story short, on 20th October 2016, there was a Congress duly called, and it degenerated in the heated argument. Of course, it was still verbal arguments. And instead of the leadership at the local level to address the matter, they just walked out.
The local leaders of ASU,
yes, at OAU, walked out of the Congress.
Which is the members of the...
Yes, and that...
And the Congress is the highest...
at the local level.
At the local level.
At the local level. And that Congress was well attended.
So all the executives of...
The presiding officers, which were about 2, and all other executives that sat with in the audience, they walked out. And members felt insulted. Mind you, that Congress was well attended because of the issue at stake. And the issue at stake was the selection of Vice Chancellor in OAU.
This was in 2016, okay.
This was 20th October 2016 precisely, which had degenerated.
So it would seem that the leadership of ASU then favored a particular...
Yes, I mentioned it.
VC candidate.
Yes, I mentioned it now so that I take it...
majority of the members didn't want...
Yes, I take it off from you so that it will be me speaking to it.
Right.
That the leadership at that level sold out to one of the candidates. There were 11 contestants. At that time, 11 or 13.
And the members didn't want that.
No.
The members wanted what?
The members wanted give everyone fair playing ground. Whoever emerges, it is still one person that we emerge.
So basically, the members didn't want ASU to take a
position,
a preference.
Or a preference.
But the leaders felt they should.
Yeah.
And in the discussion, they walked out.
Yes, it degenerated and they walked out.
So what happened next?
And next, the members felt insulted and nominated 3 persons as in the interim to conclude that meeting and possibly continue to lead until the national will intervene and resolve the matter. And that's how I came into the picture.
So did the national try to resolve it?
Well, national in its own wisdom attempted to resolve it, but what they eventually came up with from 2016 October up till February 4th, 2018, there were about 2 or 3 committees. The highest committee that was sent was the Committee of Trustees, which was convened by Comrade Alhaji Hassan Somono, who came to Ife.
Former NLC
president 3 times. The first came, I can't recollect now, but it came 3 times.
Are you related? Because you have the same last name, by the way.
We are not related.
Okay.
But I'm fortunate to know him as a president.
Right.
So, by 4th February 2018 at the NEC that held in Gombe State University, expulsion, suspension, those 2 terminologies were pronounced on over 700 academics in OAU.
So the national executive
that was their way
over 700.
That was their way of resolving
OAU lecturers.
Yes, that was
ASU.
Yes, that was their way of resolving the matter.
Oh wow. Okay. So that was how you guys now felt that well.
That resolution,
we're already expelled.
We felt it's very unfair. We felt so, but we will not dehumanize ourselves on something that is voluntary. Unionism is voluntary.
Right.
If you are employed as an academic, your beat is to teach, carry out research, and community service. Unionism is voluntary and secondary.
Right.
It's equally important, especially in the situation where your rights will be denied you. You need unions to then fight for your rights from the university authorities or even the government, either at the state level or at the federal level. So we will not dehumanize ourselves as freeborns in this country. and as free thinkers, right-thinking person, academics. So we then had to come together. 8 days interval, we had to come together because we were, the three persons I mentioned to you the other time were a product of a Congress. So we then called the Congress to report to the Congress the decision of the national. What I had in mind actually was just I would not dehumanize myself as a person. Unionism is voluntary. I would just face my research and teaching. But the Congress thought otherwise. The Congress felt they were dehumanized. They were not dignified and said, no, we can start another one. And that's how on 12th February 2018, the name CONUA came into being.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's good to know that the idea of multiple or more than one union, for university lecturers is something that is, like you said, a global practice. Like they always say, the sky is wide enough
for everyone,
for all kinds of birds,
yes,
to fly. Thank you so much, and thank you for for your service as the national president of CONUA, and thank you also for your service as an academic. A professor of atmospheric physics is a rarefied feat.
Thank you very much for having us on this program.
Thank you.
We really appreciate this, and we hope that together, because our common patrimony is the country.
Yeah,
and we hope that the government will see us as partners in progress. Criticism, constructive one, will help every one of us, and Nigeria will be better for it. Thank you very much once again for having us.
Thank you so much for coming to Inside Sources.
Yeah, thank you.
We believe that this country is going to get to that greatness that we all desire and believe in. And that's why we always say Nigeria will prevail. It means that Nigeria will win because we will not relent. Thank you for watching Inside Sources today. My name is Laulu Akonde. I'll see you at the next edition.